I've had the experience of a 2-year-old demanding that it is time for me to pee.
Yeah.
So once she figured it out herself, she's like, oh, mommy, I can tell you to do this now. And, you know, if you've experienced that, you know exactly where the resistance comes from. I remember like sitting there and being like, no, I don't.
What are some common pitfalls, things that kind of can mess up potty training that are worth avoiding? In some cases, maybe even things parents do that are well-meaning, but that later on kind of worked against them.
Yeah, I think almost everything is well-meaning.
Too.
You know, so absolutely. I will say that the absolute #1 killer of potty training is pressure. I have a lot of parents who are putting pressure on their kids and really don't realize that they are. So you really want to be careful of that, and that's part of why I really don't talk about oh crap potty training as a 3-day potty training method, even though many kids do get those basics in that time frame. I really think that we're stuck between a rock and a hard place culturally with potty training today. So on the one hand, we have 3-day potty training, and on the other hand, we have wait till they're ready. So with wait till they're ready, a lot of us hear wait, and then that's kind of what we hear, and we stop there.
That's the easier part.
Exactly, yeah, like if you stop there, then that's okay. It feels good at the time. Or we just expect kids to train themselves. So the idea of what readiness looks like is really hard to wrap your brain around. Then when we do start to potty train, we expect kids to just get it in 3 days. And you know, if we have any snags, then we go back to, well, they're just not ready yet.
How should a parent handle accidents that happen in places other than the potty?
Accidents, first of all, you want to expect that at some point in the potty training process that pee and poop are going to end up someplace other than the potty at some point. But the starting point for accidents in general is so hard, but to stay calm as a parent. And the first thing you want to do is reinforce expectations of where pee and poop go. So pee and poop go in the potty, not on the floor. A really good tip I can share with you is to have them help clean up.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it kind of slows down. It gives the message that it takes longer to clean up and take care of everything than it does just to have gone and peed on the potty to begin with. With this though, it's done in a matter-of-fact way, like you would do with any other kind of spill. So, oh look, you spilled your Cheerios on the floor, let's pick them up. The idea of cleaning up is nothing to be turned into shaming or punishment or anything along those lines. None of that is part of this approach.
And probably not turning it into a game either.
Definitely not turning it into a game. And I have had clients whose kids, they suspected that their kids would have accidents because they liked cleaning them up. And then you have to figure out other workarounds around that process.
Okay. What are some of the other common challenges that you can expect while potty training, and what should parents do to overcome these?
There are so many challenges in modern potty training. The biggest challenges that parents come to me for help with are poop, resistance, and daycare. So much of my work is putting yourself in the mindset of a toddler, which is hard to do, but I really like trying to do that. If you put yourself in that position, it sounds really gross to us adults, but the only feeling they've ever known is the warm, squishy feeling of poop up against their butt in their diaper. So the idea of releasing that and letting it go is something that is difficult for a lot of kids to overcome.
Okay.
They also get less practice with it because you poop less frequently than you pee. So you want to just keep in your mind that you need to have that supportive learning mindset for poop, most often much longer than you need it for pee. So it takes longer for them to learn. One thing I will say is that I really want to not recommend putting a diaper on upon request to poop in. So if they can request it, they're recognizing the feelings and they're capable of putting it someplace else. I'll say from my experience working with clients that it's easier to work through that fear now than it is to reinforce, it's a mild fear, but to work through that now than to reinforce it by continuing to put diapers on upon request and then try to work through it later. The second big one is resistance. And many parents encounter this and then they think that their child's not ready, and it really just isn't true. So if you think back to other boundaries that you've set, think whether you had resistance there or not. For most things, if you're, saying, oh, don't climb on the table, like we talked about before, your kid isn't just going to be like, okay, mom, let's not do
try
that
again
anymore,
in 4
right?
seconds, and then
Exactly.
again, and then a minute later.
And then if you pick them up to move them, they might pitch a fit. So,
Sure.
It's a lot of things get put into potty training or lumped into potty training that make it feel crazier than it is. It's really just resetting expectations. The last big issue that comes up a lot is daycare. A lot really just don't help with potty training anymore. But the bottom line on this is really that you can't wait for daycare to get on board with you. After that, then your kids are going to preschool. A lot of preschools, it depends on where you are, but most preschools now either demand potty trained, or they have extra fees associated with not being potty trained. So both of those things put pressure on the process.
If a parent wants to potty train before a second sibling arrives, is there any special advice that you give or any tips on what to expect?
I would say to think forward to the months after you have the baby. Remember how tired and exhausted you were when you have a newborn. So it is still recommended, or I still recommend, to potty train before the new child comes. Trying to potty train from scratch when you're in that exhausted newborn state is much harder than working through a regression. It's true that regressions do happen, brought on by having a second child, and those can be worked through for the most part with steady, consistent support. And
are there any other approaches to potty training that you would just caution against or recommend against?
So I've kind of touched on some of this already, but I really think it's important that potty training fit into your parenting style.
Sure.
So when you go online and you look at different potty training approaches and they involve like these sticker charts, I remember at this time when my daughter was 20 months and I knew she was ready to potty train, and I looked at these sticker charts on the web and was like, she can't count to 10 yet. Like, she doesn't know one day from the next. She doesn't know how to think ahead from one day to the next. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that this kind of framework works for where we're at. So you do want to be aware of those things, and that's part of why we don't use rewards, we don't use bribery, and we really think of this as just working through a milestone with the kids.